The very first thing I want to show you is my setup. So I'm working upright and I have a drawing board there. My paper is to the right and my image is to the left. And I have that image clipped up to that board. That way I don't have very far to look between my paper and the image. So we're going to start out with a ruler, and you're going to place that ruler right about in the middle of your paper. And you can see it's vertical. So we're going to do some measurements because I do want the head to be a certain measurement. And I'm making a mark at the top and I'm making a mark at number 8, so 8 inches tall. So I have 2 little marks. So I call these tick marks because they're just like this little tick or a dash. So you can see there's one on the top and one on the bottom. So that's going to represent the top of the head and the chin. And I'm drawing these lightly so that if I need to, I can erase them. So you can see them pretty clearly on that paper. Now I'm going in and I'm going to connect those 2 dots with a line. So to remind you, you need to make this line super light. In fact, every line we do today, unless you're shading, should be as light as you can, so very little pressure. You can barely see that, right? Like it should be barely visible. And that's because when we're done with this drawing, you don't want to see a line bisecting the face in half. So we're going to be erasing that at some point. Okay, so now we're going to take that vertical line that we just drew and divide it in half. So if you're lining it up with the top of the ruler, dividing it in half would be at the 4-inch mark. So that's why I'm making a little tick mark at the 4-inch mark. There, you can see a little bit clearer. Now we're going to the middle of the face and we're going to get the width of the head. So you are going to be measuring a measurement of 5 inches to get the width. And this is a generalization, and we're trying to go for about life size. And you can see I'm lining the ruler up with the vertical axis too, because I want 2.5 to the left of that vertical axis and 2.5 to the right. So I'm splitting up that 5-inch horizontal line equally on either side of the vertical axis. And that's because what one side of the face does, so does the other when we're talking about it from the front view. So here's what you should have so far. And again, very light, because you don't ultimately want to see a plus sign or a cross on the face. We're going to be erasing it. So there's the width, and then you have the height. All right, so now we're going to be drawing the gesture of the head. So this is a little bit tricky. So the basic shape of a head is kind of like an egg shape. And the egg shape is kind of like an egg that's been rotated upside down. So the top part of the head is going to look like a dome. And then the bottom part near the chin is going to slim down. This head might appear to be too long, but that's only because we're drawing the head without hair. So you have to envision this as a bald head at first. We will be drawing the hairline on there too. But most people, when they're drawing the face, they don't realize how tall the head is. The head is pretty tall. And that's just because we're used to seeing the hairline there. And you can see I'm doing this so light. And that's because I don't want to commit to this 100% yet. I want to be able to move a line if I need to. So I am looking at a specific model right now, and I hope you are too. You can look at the same model I am, or you can look at a different one. So I'm putting in the neck here, and I'm just checking where the neck starts on my model. And there's a couple of methods you can use to determine where the neck goes. In general, though, men seem to have a thicker neck than women. That might be different if you're doing a young man or a teenager. But in general, men tend to have thicker necks than women. And just so you know, we're getting in the shoulders here, but we're not going to fully detail them out. We're going to leave them kind of sketchy. So here I'm looking at the shape of the shoulder. I'm looking at the space the negative space is making, or the shape of the negative space there. And you can see I'm being real loose. Lots of little lines to make this. I'm not doing a continuous line drawing like I sometimes do. And I'm just trying to get the gesture of the shoulders. So you see, we draw like the whole face before we actually place any of the features. So I worked a little bit on the neckline and drawing the shirt outline around the neck, so there's a collar there. Now we're gonna move on to getting the hairline and placing the features. Ha ha ha, the hardest part. Okay, so I'm putting that at about the 2-inch line from the top of the head. So that's where the hairline's going to be. And just realize that everyone has a different type of hairline. So you are going to need to look at your model and put it in lightly because you might be a little bit off. And I mean, I might as well. So that's why I'm doing mine super light. Okay, so we're going to go in and draw the eyes. So the eyes are probably one of my favorite things about portraits. So we're going to first go to the center line, and to the left of that vertical line is 1/2 inch, and to the right is 1/2 inch. So there is this rule when it comes to eyes, and that is that you can fit one eye between two eyes. So that means that our measurement for each eye is going to be 1 inch. All right, so now we're going to be getting the actual eyes. So we just got that space in between the eyes, which totaled to 1 inch. Now we're actually going to draw the right eye, and then we'll draw the left eye. So we're going to do a measurement, and you're just going to put a little mark. By the way, that horizontal line is the eye line. So the eyes are found right in the middle of the head. So if you take the top of the head to the chin, the eyes are almost always going to be halfway between the top of the head and the chin. So anyway, you can see 2 marks. That's for the 1 inch mark. Interesting fact, you can fit 5 eyes on that eye line, and that's what I just wrote there is eye line, so you remember that's where my eyes go. It is common for students to place the eyes too high or too low, but they really need to be positioned on that horizontal line that you drew. And the model I'm looking at has squinty eyes because the dude is crying, and that's okay, but his eyes are scrunched up, so just know that your model's eyes will change depending on their mood. You may have a wide-eyed model with open eyes, so just pay attention to that. Most students will actually go too open with the eyes, so just be cautious with how open. And hopefully you can see, but I made these little tick marks there so you could see the height of the eyes. All right, so to find the eyebrows, usually if you take the head from the hairline to the bottom of the chin and you divide it into thirds, the eyebrows are going to be on the top third. The other way you can find the eyebrows is if you take the height of the eyes and stack it. That's usually where the eyebrows will be placed. You can sometimes guesstimate and just look. Just make sure that they are equal. Like one of mine is looking a little high. Just make sure they're equal, and mine are penciled in super light. That's not the actual angle of the eyebrow. I'm just making a big tick mark to show where those eyebrows are going to be. Just an indicator. Okay, so if we know that if we divide from the hairline to the chin into thirds, that means that the nose will sit on that bottom third. You can also take the measurement from the eyebrow line to the hairline, which is what I'm doing with that pencil there. I'm measuring with the pencil tip and I'm taking it to the eyebrow. I'm just measuring it. There we go. So I measure with my pencil. I'm pinching off at the point where I want to measure to. And then I very lightly do a little tick mark for the nose. It's a little horizontal tick mark. So you can use this system of doing these little marks to indicate where things are going to go before you actually set them down. Because we are dealing with proportion, that idea of one feature relating to the other and making sure that they're in the right place. So now I'm going to get the mouth. So I'm just dividing from the nose, that nose line, to the chin into thirds so I can get where the two lips meet. Okay, so I've kind of made some marks there to indicate where the top lip's going to go and where the bottom lip should go. So remember, when you're doing the line in between the two lips, which is usually where I start, you want to make sure that there's some curves to it, that it's not just a straight horizontal line. No. There's some curves. There's like two little bumpies there, like two little hills. And the top lip really echoes that. The bottom lip is more like an arc. And you may have to position or reposition where the mouth is or the angle of the mouth. And don't go too hard. I don't want you to press so hard that you can't move a line. Not at this stage. There are some rules about the width of the nose, and one of the rules is if you were to drop a plumb line right down from the corner of the eye where the caruncle is, that pink thing, that's the width of the nose. So you drop a line straight down. That's why I was lining up my ruler with that tear duct thing on the corner of the eye, because that's about the width of the nose for most people. Okay, so now I'm gonna suggest the nostrils, but not do anything permanent. And you can see I'm erasing as I go. I really love those gray kneaded erasers. They're fun to squish too. So getting the nostrils in, just be careful that you don't make the nostrils too open or flared. And then you're going to do the bottom lip. Slight curve to it. I'm making adjustments as I go. Just remember that the dividing line is to help you to figure out how much on one side and make sure you do the same to the other. What you do to the left, you do to the right. Now I'm lightly placing in the top lip. And again, nothing is set in stone. You really want to look closely at your model, your reference picture. And you guys know that when I say model in art, I don't mean like they have to be a supermodel. I just mean that's who you're looking at. All right, so we are going to be working on the eyes a little bit. So you want to work on the shape of the eyes. So eyes tend to have like an almond shape to them. It is critical that you make the height of the eye match the height of the other eye, and same thing with the length. And with the eyebrows too, although it can depend on the expression. So with the eyebrows, I just roughly penciled them in, but light. So the ears I'm getting in next, those don't stick out that far from the head, but they are going to be positioned between the eyebrow line and the nose line. So you can see that, right? Like from the eyebrow down to where the nose line would be. That's usually the placement of the eyes. And I'm not going straight into outlining the eyes. I'm gently shading those in to be somewhat circular. And I didn't outline, again, no outlining at all. So once you have the eyebrows lightly shaded in like you see me doing, I want you to turn it in at this stage. So you have the features there, you have the hairline there. I'm going to give you some feedback at this point. And then I want you to address the feedback after I've talked to you or I've given you a comment. And take a breath. Relax for a moment.